Did you ever hold on to something for so long that it just became not only a thorn in your side, but it just took over your mind and took over your life because you kept pushing it off and pushing it off? It could be a conversation that you need to have with someone. It could be your weight. It could be the fact that you wanted to go after a goal and now you see other people have gone after that same goal and they actually had success, but you aren't doing anything about it and it's just festering and festering and festering. But the reason why you're actually not doing anything about it is because of fear. Is because you keep putting it off because there's a reason inside of you that's blocking you from actually being able to make something happen, to have success in whatever this thing is. Well, today on Trust and Believe, that's what I'm going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to really attack the issues, whether it's with a spouse, whether it's with yourself, whether it's just something that you need to do to free your mind. You know, there was that song, Free Your Mind and the Rest Will Follow. Well, hopefully I help you free your mind today so you can follow it up with amazingness. And beyond just the word amazingness, because people use the word amazingness all the time. Beyond amazingness, hope, success, and the feeling that you can do it. Get ready to trust and believe with me, Shaun T.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's time for another episode of Trust and Believe with Shaun T.
So are the odds stacked up because of you? Think about that. Are the odds stacked up because of you? Have you sat on something for so entirely too long that now you went from only needing to jump over a 3-foot hurdle to having to climb Mount Everest, like literally having to now spend time to climb your way out of this situation that, and I'm going to say that you put yourself in, because at some point, whatever the struggle is, whatever the situation has been, you decided not to address it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is something that I think most of us, if not all of us, can relate to, which is issues with your spouse. Usually what happens is there's a big blow up with your spouse and all of these emotions and feelings start to happen and it comes out in such a terrible way. And the only reason why it comes out in such a terrible way is because it's very similar to an iceberg, right? All of this stuff was happening underneath the surface. All of this stuff was happening underneath the surface. And then what happens? 10%. It's only 10% of the buildup comes out that makes you explode. So are you having an issue with your spouse that you've been afraid to talk to them for so long because you are so vulnerable? Because you're afraid that you're going to lose them. You're afraid how they're going to react. You're afraid that they're not going to accept whatever change and whatever issue you have. Isn't now, let's go to your weight. You wake up every single day. You wake up every single day and you look in the mirror and you say to yourself, I need to make a change. But for some reason, you're not making that change. And so you go through the day, you start to eat a salad, and then by the afternoon, you've had that Coke or that soda. And then later that night, you had the stress, so now you're drinking wine, right? And then you wake up the next day, and the same thing happens again. You say, I want to make a change. You try to eat a healthy breakfast. And then all of a sudden, you go to the coffee shop, and then you're getting a bagel with cream cheese. Now, don't get it twisted. There are some times where that kind of stuff is warranted, and you need to have that fun food. But are you one of those people who are saying, I need to lose weight, and it is constantly in the back of your mind, but you're not doing anything about it but going the other way? You are stacking the odds up against you. And with all the love that I have in my body right now, I'm going to be the one to tell you to stop. It is time to now start to climb that wall or break it down, or however you feel like you're going to get through this barrier, over it, under it, beneath it, whatever it is that you have to do. It's time for you now to accept that these problems exist. Back to the first example of you and your spouse. You have to now go back and attack this issue. And the first question that might be going through your head is, well, how am I going to do it? Or I'm afraid. Well, guess what? The longer you put it off, the more it's going to build up. The more it's going to build up. Think about it. There are people who are going through this very situation right now, in a situation with themselves when it comes to weight or school, and with a spouse when it comes to the love or whatever's happening, because you keep pushing it off and nobody wants to say anything. You don't want to look in the mirror and say to yourself, I have this issue. You don't want to look in the mirror and say, stop doing what you're doing, because it feels comfortable. See, you can mask anything. It is very, very possible. You can mask happiness. It is so possible that I can't even tell you. Like, in my marriage, I could be having a worse marriage, but I could always suppress these issues, make it look really good, make it look pretty, put a little bow on top, and people will believe it. And you know what? The biggest problem is, so are you. You still believe it. You would actually still believe that anything's okay, because this situation or whatever it is, be it weight or spouse or job or school, you'll think that it's okay, because what happens is you keep pushing it down, 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 pushing it down. I want you to do a little mental experiment for me for a second. Now, I know a lot of people don't eat bread because, gluten-free is popular, but take the old school Wonder Bread or Stroman's. I don't know where you're from, but I'm from Jersey, and so we had Stroman's and Wonder Bread. Grab a loaf of Wonder Bread. Now go and grab a pretty decent size cup, that has a wide enough, cylindrical shape where you can start to stuff something in it. Now, make pretend you got this bread, right? Like this bread. Don't eat it, because sometimes when the bread is soft, trust and believe, I know we can't do it. We shouldn't do it as often as we want to, because it puts in calories. But I'm going to get to my point in a second. Take a piece of bread out of this loaf of bread. Squeeze it. Squeeze it in your hand. I want you to squeeze it. I want you to literally squeeze it. And if later you want to go buy a loaf of bread and you got the money to go waste bread, which I don't really recommend, but you can also, after this experiment, you can make some croutons or something. But imagine you taking this bread, squeezing it in your hand, right? And then you stuff it in the bottom of this cup. Cool, great, done. So then you take another piece of bread and you stuff that in there, right? You take another piece of bread, you stuff it. I mean, you are stuffing this bread. You are pushing it down, because if it's soft and it's a new batch, and it just got to the store, I mean, you got some good soft bread, and you push it down 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 and you push it down. Right? Like anything else, you'll see what's going to start to happen is you're going to start to run out of space on top. But that's not the issue, because I'm going to tell you right now, you can grab some aluminum foil. Even if the bread is overfilling the cup, you can grab some aluminum foil. You can smooth it out, and somebody can go look in your refrigerator or your cupboard, and they can say, oh, wow, what is this? You got a cup full of, it looks like bread. And you're like, oh, I'm making a cake. And it would be like, wow, they're making a cake. I want this recipe. What are you doing? Why are you doing like this? And you can still make something like that look pretty, right? It can be overflowing. It can still look pretty. But let me tell you what's happening to that bread. Because eventually you ain't going to be able to fit any more bread in there. Eventually you'll run out of aluminum foil, or you'll run out of space in this cup. And what's going to happen is that bread is going to start to mildew. You ever see mold? You ever see when bread starts to mold and it turns green? I have. The bread turns green, then it starts growing these little fuzzy things on it, and then it becomes looking really, really, really disgusting. But before it looked pretty. So that same person, that same exact person that went to the refrigerator last week that said, oh, tell me this recipe. Like, this recipe looks really good. You got this bread. Like, tell me about it. They're going to go back in that refrigerator this week and they're going to see it molded. And they're going to be like, I don't want none of that recipe. What happened? I thought you were doing something with this recipe. Because you can only stuff something for so long before it goes bad. I'm going to keep it plain and simple. You can only stuff it for so long before it goes bad. Case in point, the human experience when it comes to weight. A lot of us out there, and I'm one of these people that I can stress eat. I'm stressed out. I have two kinds of stress. I have the stress out where I just eat and I don't even know that I'm hungry and I don't even know why, but I just keep eating and eating and eating. And then my body becomes that cup in the refrigerator. And while, yes, we have natural abilities to get rid of excess food, right? But guess what? The mildew in our life, the mildew is synonymous. The mildew in that cup is synonymous with the weight that you're putting on. The mildew in that cup is synonymous with the pain that you are holding back because you don't want to talk to your spouse. That mildew is synonymous with you putting off something that you need to do, you need to talk about, you need to address. So what are you going to do about it? Why am I even talking about this? Why? Because I want you to attach to the feeling. I want you to attach to that mildew, because now that you can see the mildew and mold, I don't know if it's mildew or mold. I think mildew is in the shower, but you get my point. The mold on the bread, the mold in your body, or mildew in your body if you felt like you didn't want to wash your bathroom, right? All of this stuff is taking over your body, and now you have to look at it. You have to live with it. And you have to now accept that it's there. Because I'll tell you one thing. If I asked you to eat the bread that's in that cup a week later in the refrigerator that this person said used to look pretty, you're going to look at me and say, hell to the nah. There's no way. There's no way I'm eating that. There's no way I'm eating that. So why are you letting it sit in your body? Why are you not going after the one thing that's holding you back from happiness? Why are you not having that conversation? Okay, you might not be having that conversation because you don't know how the person's going to respond. But you know what? You're being filled up with the mold and the mildew and the bad space in your life. And now you're living in a bad space in your life. So what is it for you? What is it for you? What is that thing? What is the mildew in your body? Is it food? Is it the fear of a relationship? Are you procrastinating on going back to school? Are you staying in this job because it's just comfortable, but it's filled with the mold and the mildew in that cup? Are you going to continue to eat and stuff your body with this feeling? No, you're not. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you exactly how to get rid of it. Hey, what's up, everybody? Exciting news. T is for Transformation. My first book is now available for pre-sale at ShaunTFitness.com/book. You know, 10 years ago when I came out with Hip Hop Abs, my 3 T's were tilt, tuck, and tighten. And today, 10 years later, I can now say that my 3 T's are truth, trust, and transparency. And when you have truth, trust, and transparency, you can achieve your transformation. So go pre-order your book today at ShaunTFitness.com/book, and I will let you know when I'm on my book tour in a city near you. And as I always say, trust and believe in who you are. Again, go to ShaunTFitness.com/book to pre-order yours today. So I had to have a really hard conversation once with someone that I absolutely love, like literally one of my favorite people on the planet. And it was because of observation that I saw them taking their life in a different direction, which was justified. They were taking their life in a direction which was justified because of fear. And so I literally had to sit there and tell them how it is. I had to give it to them straight. I had to say, this is not the way you should be doing this. And I don't think that you have given it all you got in your current situation in order to be successful. And so we were talking about a situation with a spouse. And I said to them, this is going to be one of the hardest conversations you ever have with your spouse. It's going to be terrible. It's going to be the worst possible conversation you could ever have. But if you want to salvage your relationship, it's a conversation that you need to have. The same if you're going through a situation where you keep fluctuating and yo-yoing with your weight. What you need to do is accept that you put yourself in this situation. That's the hard part. Not just saying, oh, I know I did it, I know I did it, I know I did it, I know I did it. No, you have to accept that you put yourself in your situation, and you have to now understand why you're in that situation. Because it don't matter what situation you're in if you have no idea why. So the stuff that's going to come out in the conversation that this person has with their spouse is the same stuff that's going to come out in the conversation that you have with yourself while trying to figure out why you not only put on the weight in the first place, but why you choose to keep pushing down the bread so that it's going to get molded. The tough part is having the conversation. It's starting the conversation. It's doing something so that you now can start to take action. We have to address the toughest thing in order to succeed. That is exactly the reason why I made insanity harder than hard. For people who say, you know what, forget this, I'm sick of taking the easy way out. It really, for me, wasn't about weight loss or ripped arms and shoulders or abs. That's not what it was about. It was 100% about people having to push themselves and motivate themselves so much and so hard that they actually believed that they could go to a level of trust from within. And if you can really push yourself, and if you can really have that conversation with yourself or somebody else in some other situations, if you can really do that, and you can really accept and own that this all happened because your choice. You stuffed down the bread. You decided to not to do that one thing that could start the snowball effect of positivity. Because having a conversation, going deep within yourself, going to therapy to figure it out, to actually figure it out, is going to create an amazing snowball effect. You know, a lot of times when we talk about snowball effect, we talk about the negative. It's a snowball effect of negativity and all these people. But you know what? How about you create a snowball effect of negativity? How about Frosty? How about Frosty is 3 big snowballs of positivity? Right? How about these? This is great. But you have to be the one to actually go after and accept it. So here we go. Step 1, conversation with yourself, and then figuring out the why. Why you're even here in the first place. Step 2, take action and go the other way. When I say go the other way, I don't mean go the other way as far as like go away from what's hurting you. When I say go the other way, it's do the opposite of what you've been doing. So you have to attack the thing that's molded. You have to attack your body. You have to attack this situation in order for success to happen. So that's 2. You have to go after it. Like go head first. Full steam ahead. No fear. And 3, And step 3 is my most favorite, is really reliving and rewriting the moment that made all of this begin. Rewriting the moment where you took that first piece of bread and pushed it down to the bottom of the cup. Because if you relive that moment, basically, if you take this cup and you have to go back to the bottom and you have to relive this moment that made you start. Why did you start losing weight? When was the first time you had a situation with your spouse? When did you first realize you wanted to leave this job? If you have to go to the bottom, guess what you're going to do? You're going to have to open up that cup from the bottom. And once you do that, everything will start to fall out. Now, it's stuffed in there. It's probably really stuffed to the side. So you're going to have to help it come out. You're going to have to use your finger and your hands and really pull this stuff out. But if you go back to the bottom, if you go back to the point at which this all began, everything will start to fall out. And then you know what? Your cup won't runneth over. Your cup will be empty and clear and level-headed. And yes, there will still be some mold on the sides, right? There will be some times where you're going to look and see the remnants of this old feeling. But you know what? I'd much rather chip away at small particles than have to continue to pull out big particles. Or actually, more importantly, I'd much rather chip away at the small particles of mold than to keep stuffing more and more and more hurt and pain and time and distance into what's not working for me. It needs to work for you. Make it work. Make it work. So whether you are one piece of bread in, or maybe you're halfway up that cup, now is the time to take action. Have the tough conversation with yourself. Have the tough conversation with somebody else. Go back to the beginning to realize where it actually came from. Because when you realize that, one day, you're going to look at that cup and it's going to be clear. And not only is it going to be clear, but it's not going to have a bottom anymore. So now you're not even going to be able to fill up anything. You're not even going to be able to fill it up with negativity because it's clear. Don't stack up the odds against you because of you. Don't stack up the odds against you because of you. And more importantly, don't do it any longer. You have the ability, you have the wherewithal and the knowledge to know, just know that you can succeed. And I'll leave you with this. Pain is hard, pain is real. And sometimes it is like chipping away at a big rock in order to get to the core of the issue. But I tell you this, don't be distracted. Don't be afraid to put in the work to get to the core of the issue. Because all of that hard work, each time you chip away one piece of the rock, you will find out something great about yourself. And your greatness is at the core of who you are. When you start out 60 days of insanity, yes. Day 1, you say, I never want to do this again. But what happens when you go back to day 2? Then guess what? You only have 58 days to go. And then you go to day 3 and 57. And when you stay the course, when you continue to chip away at this rock, there will be less than half the time to go. And more importantly, you are working on yourself. So don't stack up the odds against you because of you. stay the course, go after it, and I know you will succeed. And always trust and believe in who you are. I want to give a huge shout out to Todd Midget, aka NC Fit Club, Alex Coloreo, my lovely production manager. They do a great job with loving up on the podcast and making sure that it gets out to you so that we can all stay motivated and relevant. Thank you guys. You guys are awesome.